Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Now, here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH gear artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, welcome to EVH Gear TV for a Tuesday evening. Yes, a Tuesday. It feels a little weird. Even Sandra Lee, who was asking me today, is it Friday already? I said, no, it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. But you know what? Who cares what day of the week it is? I'm joined by Great White's Mark Kendall. Mark, how are you?
How you doing, man? Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. There you go. You know what? I haven't had tacos in so darn long. Did you have tacos today?
I'm going to have them after the show.
Okay, good. And I've been seeing you in the kitchen a lot. Some of these social media posts, you're getting the apron on there, you're in the kitchen. And what was the last thing I saw you posting you were making? Do you remember what it was?
Which one?
You posted something recently in the kitchen. You were cooking something and you were learning to cook something. I forget what it was, but I've been following some of the social media posts where you're cooking, and I don't know what it was.
Oh, that was pasta from scratch.
Oh, right. And how did that turn out?
Yeah. With some friends of ours, they're kind of showing us the ropes on the pasta from scratch vibe.
I imagine it was
pretty
good.
fun. Yeah, it was amazing. They're totally pro, man.
Good stuff. Yeah, mine
way out of their league.
Mine comes from a bag. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's cool though.
SpaghettiOs.
That's right. It's cool. I'm sure the fans appreciate that too, seeing another side of you that a lot of people would not expect. So that's nice that you share that. Rock and roll, right. Man. I was going to say hi to the folks in the chat real fast, and we're going to jump back and get right into the great set list that we have tonight. I've got Darren Moore and Buddy jumping in. I was telling you he's coming over my way here tomorrow to say hi. Les Bellins jumping in. Joseph Burt, Michael Bishop, Mike Ray, Mighty McLovin. Les Bellins says, love Great White. Hey, Mark, he says, and hey, Eric.
Awesome.
This is really cool. Eddie Rocks 5150. I love Kendall's playing on Once Bitten. It says something Soldano. Mystic Star says hi, Ivy, Eric, and Mark K. Garden Grove, Great White, and Tone Bolt says hello, good people. I'm gonna go a little reverse. I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna say here. Number one, it's amazing. Like with the new record that you've got out there. I know that everything evolves. Studios evolve. We go from tape, we go to digital, we go back to tape, all these kind of things. We got guitar, we got amp simulations. But I find your tone overall has maintained itself. Like your sound, everyone's chasing different tones and everyone's evolving, but yours is still sounds like you when you play. What do you credit a lot of that to?
You know, I don't really have an answer for that. It seems like I remember I played on a Glenn Hughes record years ago and I didn't even bring an amp, and they just I asked them if this amp over here works. It was an Ampeg combo. Mm-hmm. Plugged in, put a mic on it, played. It just sounded like everything else I've ever done. So I don't know if there's any special formula. You know, I like a good tube sound. I mean, but you know, there's no magic to it or anything. It seems like it sounds similar no matter what I play through. I would imagine, unless I played through like, I don't know, a pig nose or something that was really distorted, or you know what I mean? So I just kind of find it. I get most of what I need from the volume knob on my guitar.
Nice.
You know, I'm a roll-off player, so I kind of feel that. You know, as simple and ridiculous as that sounds, I really rely on that a lot instead of a lot of pedals like I had years ago. I had a big Bradshaw switching system that, you know, it was kind of keeps you confined to one point of the stage because you tend to have a lot of switching, and
yeah. So
I ended up kind of stripping it down and going more for the amp after a while, having just a select few pedals, maybe chorus. You know, instead of like 3 SPX 900s, a bunch of compressors. I can't tell if they're not working or not. You know, it just had a load cabinet off the stage that was dry. It just, you know, it just became too much to where I had so much going on. I forgot what the amp sounded like after a while. So, but yeah, going back to your question, it just seems like to me, you know, I never stray away from go for some crazy amp that has, like I said, maybe tons of distortion. I don't know. I just try to go for a warm tone that's, not too trebly, not too much bass, and kind of really get a lot from my hands. I kind of rely on that a lot,
Yeah. You're saying all the.
Sometimes I play
things.
with my fingers, not even use the pick on certain things when it's a breakdown or something to get a different kind of tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine if a guy like Eddie Van Halen played through my gear, it would sound like him, probably.
It would. And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to get away from yourself,
That's right. And that's actually a very, very good thing. And I'll just make a note of every little thing you were saying there, little things that you said, playing with your fingers, rolling the volume back. Obviously, Eddie Van Halen is a guy like that as well, too, rides the volume like a throttle in a race car.
Yeah.
And I see the evolution, too, as well. Like you talk about the days back in the day in the 80s and 90s, that was the thing. Everyone, and some people today still have refrigerator upon refrigerator of rack gear, and you're going through so many processors. Now, myself, I feel naked without certain pedals, but I like the way you broke it down to maybe a chorus pedal, something like that. If you were like a desert island kind of thing, you had your Marshall on your guitar or whatever it is, and one pedal, what would be that one pedal that you'd have to take with you?
Maybe the tuner.
That's a good one. But you're not you're not tuning for anyone. There's
no
one
you mean
there.
Like an effects kind of thing?
Yeah.
I kind of like chorusing.
Okay.
When it's used nice, it's kind of especially with clean sounds. I kind of like it. It's kind of pretty. You can do a lot with it.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So
for me, I like delay, but I mean that's everyone has their own choice, right?
I have delay. I use it a little bit for certain things.
Is there a particular one that you prefer that you use in a pedal form, or do you use rack?
I've been using a Boss delay. I couldn't even tell you the model right now.
A single pedal unit, like a single?
Yeah.
So one of the DD3s.
It's a very simple Boss setup. It's nothing elaborate. It's like I got a tuner, a wah-wah pedal, chorusing, and delay, and this. It's not so much a distortion pedal as it is a level pedal. It just boosts the level a little bit.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm pretty stripped down. I mean, there's not much going on between my guitar and amp. It's
That's nice. And
so
I imagine the front of house guys, when you're playing live, love that as well too, because
you
get some of these guys who are just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, one of the things I saw you share the other day on Facebook, which was really cool, and I know this was a big thing for you. I saw you posting about before the show and then after the show as well too. So you played in your hometown, Huntington Beach, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you played there, and not only was it a kind of a bucket list thing for you to go back and hopefully see some of your friends play the hometown in that, but after the show, you heard from the promoter that it was one of the best shows that they've done there. Tell us a little bit about how that went for you.
Yeah, well, it just turned out great, and soundcheck really wasn't didn't go so well. There was some technical things, but it's funny enough. Sometimes you have a bad soundcheck, and it's the best show ever.
I agree.
And it was. I'm not saying it was the best show ever, but it was just a ton of fun, and just kind of brought me back a little bit. When I was 15, 16, and 17, I kind of believed that I honed most of my playing skills from those years. I was just playing. I never left my guitar for a second. If I went to the store, I brought an acoustic with me. I mean, like a goofy guy,
Yeah.
But I was just obsessed, with the guitar, and I used to play at parties. I would just play it all the time, and it just seems like I was constantly playing. It's very hard to find a singer. Jammed with a couple singers, but mostly it was just we would just play instrumentally, but we'd play like Trower, but I would always extend the solos for forever. I mean, and Alvin Lee, I would do like I'm Going Home. In fact, two guys were down from Pennsylvania and saw me play I'm Going Home, because I played it like kind of note for note, but then jammed forever.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to take me back to Pennsylvania, and I was only 16. And I asked my parents, and my dad's like, "This could be his big shot," and all this,
And your mom's like, "No."
But I wasn't sure because I hadn't heard these guys play.
Mm-hmm.
So they took me to a motel the bass player was playing like Flight of the Bumblebee, like every note you can imagine. The drummer was just all over the place. And I knew right then I wasn't going. But like a scaredy cat chicken, I said, well, I need to go get my stuff because I didn't know if they'd kidnap me. I don't know these guys. They're older than me, you know.
Yep.
So I went and this is going to sound really bad, but I told my mom when they knock on the door to say I can't go.
There you go.
It was terrible.
I don't blame you.
It was terrible.
I don't blame you.
It was awful.
But I'm glad that you brought that up because that's one of the things where I was talking to you either through Facebook or wherever I was mentioning it, was the fact that when you talked about I'm going home, that's something that was huge with Eddie Van Halen too in the backyard party scene. He was known, and then obviously you were known for that as well too, because it's not an easy piece to duplicate or to replicate, and you guys both did it and made a name for yourselves. But yeah, you were saying you would do that particular solo sometimes upwards of an hour, and it'd be a real treat to experience that, I'm sure, for the guitar fans and the the rock and roll partiers back then.
Yeah, I got into Alvin Lee when I was about 15 after actually seeing the Woodstock performance of that song. It was one of the greatest performances that I've ever seen, and I just worked on that that intro and everything it took me a long time to get it, but I got it pretty close. I mean, nudging note for note, and I just loved the way he played. It was funny. I remember reading an article. It was an interview with him, and he said that he knew 6 licks.
Put them all into that song?
Okay, whatever. They're pretty good, though. I like them.
So you saw Woodstock. That would be absolutely phenomenal to be there for that set.
I just saw films of it. I'm not quite old enough to have been there, or I just saw the films and the performances. Soul Sacrifice was another one that just blows me away to this day. Unbelievable performance.
Do you find yourself during sound checks, the odd gig, just kind of noodling with some of those tunes a little bit, or?
Oh yeah. All the time. I'm always like, I'll play a little. I'm going home.
Nice.
Audio luncheon, or doon 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 doon. I can't believe that bass player survived that performance. If you've seen him, he was just slapping with his fingers, just hitting it like this the whole time, and that was a pretty long version. I think he played about 11 minutes.
I'm surprised
that was pretty crazy.
Basses.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is something I didn't have on the question, but we kind of touched base on this just before the call here, or I've been going live. And you said you actually got to experience some of these backyard parties, talking about Eddie Van Halen doing the I'm Going Home and things like that. You saw Van Halen long before the world saw Van Halen. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yes, I did. Well, my friend had seen them like 2 times, and this is before we were old enough to have a driver's license. But I had heard that they were playing 3 blocks from my house, so I had to go. He told me about the guitar player. So we walked over there. I paid $1 to get in, and when they were already playing when I came in, the singer, David Lee Roth, he was blowing a tube inside of the drummer's floor tom, and he was doing this like kind of wipeout solo, And I'm going, okay, where's the guitar player? Let's get this going, I think they played, if I remember correctly, they played like a Bad Company song, I believe. I think they played ZZ Top, and they played an original, and it was called Put Out the Light.
Yes.
And I remember that song, and I think they played maybe one other original or 2. I believe it was very early stages of David Lee Roth being in the band.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so cocky and so funny. We just cracked up. I loved this guy, He was just so sure of himself, and, so that's what I remember. And I also remember Eddie kind of, because I was familiar with all these covers they were doing, and he was kind of a little outside of the realm or the box or whatever, with when we did the solo parts.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting to hear the kind of the solo that's on the record, and he kind of did it a little different, but it was really impressive. I was like, whoa, this guy's like an alien, man. I don't know what he was playing. I remember the guitar was like a Les Paul Jr., I believe.
Mm-hmm.
No wang bar, no finger tapping, but definitely like something you haven't heard before, you know. I only knew one other guitar player that played kind of that way, and that was Jimmy Bates from Stormer.
Okay.
But I hadn't heard anybody blow him away, but I was going, man, this guy is in Bates's league for sure, you know. And because he played outside the box as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I was super impressed. Then after that, I kept hearing them playing like every night almost. It was like they were at a club. They were playing here, they were playing there. So I was super inspired by that. That I go, man, if we're ever going to have a chance to, you know, get anywhere, we got to play all the time. I just kind of carried that with me for years, and we used to play like free. We play free way more than we got paid.
Right.
Just so we could play.
Yeah, the experience and the exposure for sure.
Yeah.
Now, were you the backyard party guys too until you got the club gigs, or did you?
Oh yeah. God, played a zillion backyard parties. We used to play in our own backyard.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I bought a house with my bass player and drummer. My mom kind of made that happen. She was a real estate agent, and
perfect.
We had a few parties, and they would get busted so quick. I mean, 4 songs, you're doing great, you know. So it was horrible. We talked to all the neighbors. Everybody said cool. So I'm not sure who called, but
there's always the one neighbor. There's always one somewhere 2 blocks away or something.
Yeah, Van Halen though, they really they kind of started playing way bigger parties where there'd be like 1,500, 2,000 people and stuff, and started to charge $2. It was like, whoa,
big money.
These guys are charging $2. Yeah, that's like insane, you know. But yeah, I watched them grow. I watched them get better. I watched them get super tight, and you know, went to a lot of their shows. They used to open for big bands that came through town. It was always Van Halen that played with, you know, UFO or Santana. I just remember every time a band would come through, they would be the opening act, just autopilot, you know. So I was thrilled when they got their deal, you know. So
and probably a lot of bands too that weren't so thrilled either, because you get other bands that are, you know, paying their dues and cutting their, cutting their chops and stuff like that, and also, Van Halen's got the opening slot again. Van Halen's got the opening slot again. You know, but I mean, they earned it, and it's really cool. Like just like you guys did, whether you're playing for the $1 or paying for $2 or whatever it is per head. The fact is, you're establishing a fan base. You both did that, and what I think is really cool, and goes to my next question, is you've also been noted in some recent interviews saying that, you know, the Great White fans are you know, everyone obviously praises their fans, but your fans have been extremely loyal from day one till today, and they don't really jump ship like some bands do.
They don't.
What do you say about those fans, and how important has it been to you and the band over the years?
You know, we've just always treated our fans like the best we possibly could. Like we never leave until all the pictures are taken, everything's signed. You know, we don't go running out of buildings like the Beatles. You know, we've always been grateful for the fans, and I don't know if they recognize that, they just like the music a lot, or what's going on, but they always seem to be standing in front of the stage ready to go. You know, so yeah, I just think that's loyal, you know, that they're here all these years later, and even bringing their kids and stuff, you know.
Generations.
I mean, we've seen some generation stuff, and it's not like with our parents, because our parents, we really couldn't relate because it was so far removed from rock, you know.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you know, it was Frank Sinatra or whatever, not that they're not all great.
Awesome.
It's just it was alien to us, you know. To where our stuff, at least it rocked, even though their kids might be into, you know, way heavier stuff or whatever. At least, you know, I've had my son bring friends to our shows, and they're coming, your dad shreds, bro, you know,
that's
and
awesome.
stuff like that. So, you know, but they're like 3 generations away from us. So I always love that, you know.
Yeah. if we separate ourselves from our parents, because we're close in age, and you know, you mentioned Sinatra, things like that too. My parents, same thing, like the Les Paul, Sinatra, you know, Bing Crosby, all that kind of. I could not, if I was old enough, I would never have attended a Bing Crosby concert. But let's fast forward a little bit. So, you know, growing up, we like Kiss, we like Led Zeppelin, we like Van Halen, things like that. Our kids can still participate, and you know, not Led Zeppelin necessarily, but some of these bands. We can bring our kids to these shows, and it is a nice thing to see those generations gap. Sometimes 3 generations, grandfather, son, and grandson, whatever. Do you see some of the Do you see some similar faces that the diehards will follow you from city to city?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've become friends with a lot of the fans.
Nice.
They've gone so often, you know, that it's just like automatically we let them wherever they want to go, and you know, the ones that I don't know, you know, it just happened. I can't even give you a particular, but you know, when somebody, I remember one guy, they called him Crazy Mark. He was in the front row for like every show of an entire tour, and he had not one credential to his name. I don't know what his rap was, what his deal was, but somehow I got into these concerts, and Jackie used to hold the mic up to him and let him sing. You know, he sang pretty good, almost like a Dio type voice.
Okay,
you know?
right on.
And he would let him sing choruses and stuff. So he was always kind of a guy that ended up being a friend, and you know. But there's a lot of those. Just that's why I kind of like the Monsters of Rock cruises, because we're not behind, you know, we're not backstage and we just show up on the stage.
No.
It's like we're mingling. We're doing everything we don't normally do on a cruise, and meeting and hearing stories and meeting all these fans. There's like 4,000 people on these cruises.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy that, because, you know, it gives us a chance to, you know, I was doing things on that cruise I would never do in a normal situation, like out watching bands with the crowd, and,
nice.
you know,
Nice.
and stuff like that. You know,
you
don't normally, you wouldn't do that at a show, but it's almost like the gloves are off, the rules are out, and we're just going to go mingle with the fans, be fans ourselves, enjoy the music, and just have fun.
That's right.
You know,
we're all on the boat. We're going to the same place for the same duration.
That's right.
So let's have some fun. That's actually something to be really good for fans. I mean, if some fans can only afford to attend maybe one show a year or something like that, and they can afford a cruise, I would think. I've never attended one of the Monsters of Rock cruises. I've attended a Monsters of Rock concert, but not a cruise. But that's a place where you can go get some great bill, several good bands, and then possibly meet them, hang with them. You know, watch bands with you. Watching another band would be great. That's a great experience.
Everybody seems to be playing well too. That's what I dig. I mean, I saw a couple of bands. I was actually really blown away by a band called DAD. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have not.
But their live show was so good, I couldn't even believe it. It was just amazing.
Nice.
And they didn't even play the main stage.
Wow.
I mean, they're kind of huge in Europe. Like, they play for big festivals and stuff like that. They got tons of videos. I was super impressed.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Gary Hoey was on the show a couple times recently, and he talks about the cruises, too. He does those all the time.
Yeah.
He just absolutely loves them. And I think for the same reason, too. You get to just, you know, you're just guitar player guy. You're not guitar hero guy. You're guitar player guy, and you get to hang out and obviously meet your fans and things like that, too. But
I really like Gary Hoey.
Isn't he something?
In fact, we did a clinic together in San Diego probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet him, and then I saw him at NAMM. And, you know, he's real personable, real down to earth, and he plays real good. I'm glad you had him on.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Well, the funny thing about him, too, and I get this impression from you, too. I mean, we could probably you and I could do a separate show and not even speak one word of music and just talk about family and things like that and still have a good show. And that's what it was like with Gary. He was like, oh, yeah, we got to talk about some music a little bit. And it was still actually fun, you know? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump over the chat real quick, and then we'll come back to an Eddie Van Halen question for you. So we got my Poison Ivy. She's running the chat here as well. Les Bellins jumping in. Dan Wilhite says, hi, Eric and Mark. Eddie Rocks 5150 says, ask me if he remembers Mark Norton from Moody's Music. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I knew Mark a long time ago. In fact, when I was in New York years ago on tour with Judas Priest, I was at this place called the Limelight, which is really a place where people just party down and they dance, and it's kind of like almost like you know, just dance music, and he was screaming, and I thought he said that that he was on Kiss, which is like a radio station.
Yeah.
But once we got close enough and get through all the people, he goes, "No, dude, I'm in Kiss. I'm in the band."
I'm
and I'm going,
Kiss.
"No way, that's insane." And so I went to his apartment the next day and we jammed. And he actually told me once that he was kind of influenced by the energy I put into my show, because back then I was like the first man on the sun. You know, I was just everywhere. I was like, go like a crazy man. But yeah, Mark, when you sat next to Mark. He called himself Mark St. John, I believe, in Kiss, but Mark Norton is his name. And
that's what he mentioned.
If you sit next to that guy and play with him and watch him play, man, he knew a lot. I mean, he was real good guitar player.
That's wicked. Very, very cool. Yeah, Kiss has had a series of guitar players. I mean, Ace Frehley was my first guitar hero. I got to give credit there, and he still is. You know what I mean?
Who's that?
Ace Frehley.
Oh, Ace Frehley. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know a friend that didn't play air guitar to that guy. And here's another thing, too. When I heard that they were saying that they were just hired guns and this and that, and I'm going, I just can't buy that, because I had friends that played air guitar, and I remember when Van Halen got signed, on the show, their last local show, Eddie's solo at the very end, he played the Ace Frehley solo.
Oh.
You can go online and hear it.
Okay.
It's that boom, and he goes all the way up the neck. He actually,
yeah.
So that's dedication. I mean, it's Ace, man. Come on,
Yeah.
He's the man.
I saw something tonight on Facebook probably about an hour before I went live. Like, all of us, and you've experienced this, different band members in the band, we all have different singers and bass players, and we go, the longer you go into music, you trade musicians. And it's a shame to see Ace Frehley go and Peter Criss go and things like that, but it is what it is, and they may come back someday, who knows. But I saw something, and I have utmost respect for Tommy Thayer. I'm still a little, kind of a little uneasy with the makeup thing, but it is what it is, right? But I saw, apparently Ace Frehley did a show recently, and this guy bought a T-shirt from one of the scalpers out in front of the venue, and it said Ace Frehley. It actually literally said Ace Frehley on it, but it was Tommy Thayer. It's clear as a bell was Tommy Thayer, and that's a little too close to home when it, I mean, imagine Ace seeing that. It says Ace Frehley, and it's clearly Tommy Thayer.
I think that kind of tells the story. Here we are 30 years after he was let go from the band, and people are still pumping their fists in the air going, Ace!
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah. He did influence a lot of people, and it's, I mean, not the most. I don't want to sound rude when I say this. Not the most proficient guitar player in the world. However, what he did, he was like, you know what he is? He's like the David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth is certainly not the world's best vocalist, but you combine that little magic bag of tricks that he had, attitude and charisma. Ace Frehley, same thing too. Where he would pose with the guitar, the smoke and mirrors and bombs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he pulled it off.
Ace melted into Kiss the way David Lee Roth melted into Eddie's guitar, and the bass and the drums. It was a machine that was perfectly assembled. There's just that. Just listen to the first Van Halen album, and you can hear it. It's like his voice is just glued to the band. I mean, it's just. It's a feel that you feel when you listen to that. That just like, I mean, I know what you mean. His range isn't like, to the sky or whatever, but he put a lot of attitude. When you can't sing high, you need to make people believe you with your voice.
That's right.
And you really have to deliver. And he made himself believable. And his lyrics were real strong.
Yeah, they are. I didn't have the pleasure of seeing Van Halen like you did, in the backyard parties, or even when they were starting the first world tour and things like that. However, I would expect it to be like, if my parents were to take me to the circus as a kid, Barnum and Bailey Circus, whatever. You got the ringleader over here. Okay, watch over here while we do this, and we bring in the elephants over here. That's what David Lee Roth was like, smoke and mirrors and all that kind of stuff. And he did it, and he sold it home. And,
it's kind of misleading when people say that he's just got this huge ego, and I've sat and talked to this guy several times, and he's a total gentleman. I mean, he just wants to know what you're up to. He's just going, how's the band? what have you guys been doing? It's not like, dig me, I'm bitching, I'm David Lee Roth, what do you want to know? Because it's all about me. It was never like that. He always wanted to know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, maybe when it's showtime, it might be the Diamond Dave syndrome,
Yep.
But when you sit and talk to him and he's away from all that, he's really, really a good guy.
He does not strike me as the type of guy that'd walk into a club. Now, sure, he might walk into a club with 12 girls on either side, but he doesn't walk into a club and say, "Do you know who I am?" You know what I mean? He's not like that. Yeah.
Well, some people don't have to say that.
I know, that's true. I guess when you're walking in with 12 girls, then you don't have to say anything. But yeah, but it's pretty cool though. And the thing is too, he doesn't have the range of the Sammy Hagars and things like that too. And as a Van Halen fan, I respect all eras of Van Halen. I have my favorites,
Sure.
And obviously that's David Lee Roth. But I mean, it's what a cool ringleader, man, and a good source of inspiration for all of us. As obviously affected you a little bit too, growing up too.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I remember they played Anaheim Stadium when they did the fake entrance with the parachutes.
Yeah.
and I actually had a record of that show, and some of his raps were so funny. Oh my God. He was a character, man.
Yeah, the stories. And, sometimes people would say, okay, that's time for it's a bathroom break, when he's out there doing his little shtick, or Ice Cream Man and stuff like that. It's time to go to the bathroom or get drinks or whatever the case may be. But a lot of people actually dig that stuff. And if people actually paid attention and didn't leave, he would always throw some, especially now, he's doing throwbacks to back in those party days. Now they're playing the world's biggest stages, and they want to make those world's biggest stages the backyard, where back in the day when you saw them, they wanted to pretend those backyards were the world's biggest stages. It's kind of funny how it's full circle, actually.
I can actually tell you this, though. They've always been really, really professional in the sense that you never saw them mingling. They just appeared on the stage, even when it was difficult. Somehow, all of a sudden, they were on the stage. It's like, and when the show was over, you didn't know where they went.
They're gone.
They didn't jump off the stage and go to the bar and hang out with everybody. And, they really kept that mystique. And I think high-end pros do that. They it's not to be rude. It's just to be professional. Mm-hmm. And they were always that.
It created demand then, right? Because if you're there 24/7 with everyone, the demand is not there. But magic poof, you're there, and that's pretty cool. I like that idea. Yeah,
they were very professional in that way.
Well, I remember back in the early club days too, where before they had the roadies, to keep that mystique as well too. They would show up with overall jeans, whatever, not look the hair tied back, whatever. Yeah. And then when these guys got roadies, all of a sudden there's a band dressed up in lapels and all that kinds of cool stuff.
They had roadies ever since I can remember. The Rudy Laren guy, but I think he left quite a few years ago. But a lot of the guys they kept around, and they didn't get signed and get all new pros or whatever. They kept all the same guys, so they were loyal in that sense.
That's good, yeah. Well, it's good too when you have guys that are working with you for a long time. I mean, it's consistency. You don't have to retrain a new guitar tech. The guy knows your sound. He knows where you want your amps. He knows he knows you like your instruments too. Yeah, very cool. So jump back to the chat for a quick second. We got Thomas Santiago saying hello, Eric and Mark. Poison Ivy, everyone in the chat. Guitar Craig Wannabes jumping in. It says top of the evening, everyone. We get a lot of really good guitar players in this chat. Greg is one of them. Jared Frost has huge influence on me and big influence on tone for me since I was a kid. Very, very nice. Poison Ivy saying, hey guys, Jared Frost. Hey Craig. Scroll down a little bit. Justin Gardy says, I agree with Jared Frost. Love Mark's tone. We all do for sure. I just scrolled a little too fast. Bear with me for a quick moment. I'm going to jump over some questions. Jared Frost says, House of Broken Love. Love the blues vibe and tone in that song. Jared and I were just talking on Facebook moments before we went live, and he was mentioning that song. That is great. Love that song.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I think part of my influences was more of the melodic kind of players, that play very memorable stuff. So I've never been in a note race with anybody, although I appreciate, the technical side of guitar players that, can really tear it up, and they know a lot of theory, and, they just going down that path. I definitely, that's inspiring to me as well. But I've always trying to find the best melodies I could find. Even when I was a little kid, I didn't even hear bands when I heard music. I just heard the singer. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me why, but that's what I heard, and I'd listen to these melodies, and it would make me sing with them because I loved it so much. And I think that kind of carried over to my guitar. So I just remember being 13 and 14, and Carlo Santin was like the only guitar player in the world for me, you know. And I think it was just the way he played, the way he held notes, the way he, you know, there's just something about things like that I just think it's just the greatest, instead of just some flurrying thing, you know. Even my dad used to take me to jazz clubs, and, you know, because he claimed that his sax player was like the best in the world, but he had a drug problem.
Okay.
And he goes, there's just nobody that can blow sax like this Jerry Ricketts guy. His name was Jerry Ricketts. He used to come over and make hamburgers. So I'd see a sax player, and he's just like bleeding out of his eyes, and he's just like screaming on the sax. And I go, that guy's got to be close. He goes, not even close. You know. So, but one thing that I always drawn to was when they went back to the theme. You know, you know, whatever. I just dug that, but I also loved the solos. So I try to, you know, play stuff that people might remember and use the more technical side for dynamics.
Sure.
Instead of just giving you all this speed and giving myself nowhere to go.
I know. Once you hit
that
plateau,
there's no way I'm going to go faster, right?
No.
But it's something I just learned over the years, because when I was young, when I was 17, you know, whoever played, I remember Mustaine saying that he could play way faster than me. So we were kind of the note contest guys.
Okay.
But then I just kind of went back to my roots a little bit and started thinking differently and going, but listen to the solo in Stairway to Heaven. It's like, I can sing the whole thing, and it's so awesome.
It is.
He came up with that solo. He wrote that, you know, and it's something that to me is very difficult to do, but if you can do it and put the right changes under it, you can make something that's going to last a long time, that people are going to go, man, you know, it might create a couple of air guitar players at some point.
Yeah,
you know,
that's for sure.
Because they know what kind of where it's going to go. But I also like, you know, the Paul Gilberts, the guys that can do both.
Joe Satriani.
You know, I think when you can do both, when you can really show a lot, but you have that theme thing going on as well, then those guys are called like aliens, you know.
Yeah.
Those are the guys, the upper echelon monsters, you know. But when it's just the shredding or whatever, I'm impressed by the skill of it, but it doesn't really do a lot for me musically.
And sometimes emotionally too.
Emotion, yeah. Because the guys I listened to was like Carlo Santana, Alvin Lee, you know, Billy Gibbons, Trower, you know, these guys that didn't squeeze notes because of something that's on paper. You know, it's just the way they're feeling at any given moment. And there's just something about that it just made me want to get better. It made me want to feel the music more. And I, you know, things are working out okay for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, perfect example is, as much as every guitar player wants to be remembered as a guitar player, you know, when people go home at the end of the day, a lot of people that come to see bands play are not musicians. They're just fans of music. They want to tap their foot, they want to dance, and they want to remember the melody. And most chances, I mean, there's not everyone out there singing a Stairway to Heaven. Stairway to Heaven is a rare one. You know, they're not singing our guitar solos, humming it in their heads. They just don't. They sing the lyrics, they sing the melody, they hum it.
Right.
Another perfect example is we keep referring back to Van Halen, but look at, you know, before David Lee Roth, you know, doing covers, you know, of Deep Purple and Edgar Winter and things like that. Very, you know, proficient guitar and technical stuff. David Lee Roth comes in the band, and as much as Eddie and Alex hated it, doing some, David Bowie and, all kinds of things outside the box where, they started selling more drinks at the bar. The bar owners had them back more. The crowds were filling in because they could dance. People wanted that kind of stuff, so,
it really helped get their name out too. I mean, they were the band. I mean, them and Stormer were the two biggest bands. You weren't really sure. You knew one of them was going to go. Mm-hmm. And I really feel that Van Halen had the whole package. But I love Stormer too because of that guitar player. Man, that guitar player was just something else. And the drummer, he really put on a good show. But yeah.
Is the guitar player still around today?
No, he died.
He passed away.
He died a couple years ago. I actually got a poster of him at my birthday party. The drummer, Steve Hall,
mm-hmm.
brought it for me for just like a gift. He had a poster made of Jimmy Bates.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
it
was really sweet.
A real keepsake for sure.
He's still a hero of mine. These guys influenced me when I was up and coming, and not even thinking about getting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But super inspired. So I don't forget things like that.
That's nice. Yeah, you definitely remember the roots and what got you to where you are. And I think it's one of the things that kind of translates in your music as well, too. And people gravitate onto that. People can see transparency very easy. Some of these man-made, bands, and I won't make any references to anybody, but, these,
right.
The man-made bands, the boy bands and stuff like that.
Sure.
There doesn't seem like there's any real dimension to them. And there's no history because they were just made,
That's why I kind of... for this reason is why I love Metallica.
Okay.
Because I'm just using that for an example. Mm-hmm. It's because they got better from playing together.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't start out that way.
No.
They just kept practicing. Same with my band, or a lot of bands, any given band. They might, first you start out, you're playing in the garage, your parents are telling you to turn it down. It's just a horrific nightmare. And all of a sudden you're starting to do better. You're starting to sound better. You're playing better.
Mm-hmm.
It's from practicing, together. You get in a room and you're jamming with the boys, and, you get better from doing that. The made bands are just... they're all good on their own, but they're formed. You got songwriters giving them the songs, and
mm-hmm.
it's not real,
Yeah.
It's hard to attach feel to that.
And you look on the flip side of that too, their first concerts are for 50, 75, 100,000 people, 300,000 people.
Yeah, the first gig.
Yeah, whereas, we started out playing for, 12, 10, 5, our friends and girlfriends in the backyard or in the basement or whatever, and then eventually a club. Yeah, so it's different, right? You don't cut your teeth that way.
No.
Yeah.
And you really do feel like you earned it, even though you might get a few people saying, "Oh, they're an overnight success," But we actually grinded it out in the clubs for 8 years, and we're like, fighting our hearts out. We're playing for free. We're not eating well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, And then you finally get a break, and it's like you're an overnight success. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
That's the same with any band from that era. For your band, anyone out there, and I know it from reading about a lot of bands. You think it's overnight success because you didn't hear about them because we weren't there in the LA Strip and things like that, and on the small tours. You guys,
the backyards.
Yeah. Not an overnight success. I imagine if you were to add up all the man hours that you and your bandmates put in, thousands of man hours before there was ever success.
Oh, yeah. And, like I was saying earlier that I was really inspired by how often Van Halen played,
mm-hmm.
that we tried to play as much as possible to give ourselves a chance to have an opportunity to get lucky,
mm-hmm.
A better chance at least. And it finally happened for us. The right guy was in the crowd, and, everything kind of, it seemed to go pretty fast after that,
That's nice.
Because we had a great manager with Alan Niven, who actually ended up managing Guns N' Roses as well.
Okay.
But, he just was a great visionary. He really helped us a lot, and gave us a good chance at a career. Got us, as a local band, unsigned, in heavy rotation on the biggest stations in Los Angeles. So that was like an unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
We were in shock and didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean?
It's tough.
So,
I know here in Canada it's a little different with FM radio. We have this thing called CanCon. They have to play so much Canadian content. And even with that, I think I should know this because I worked in radio. I think it's 70% Canadian content. The rest is, everything else in the world. But even as an unsigned band, even though they're desperate for Canadian content, they can't play unsigned bands. So that's unless you have your indie shows and things like that, which is a special segment dedicated to that. So that's very awesome that you got that without being signed to a label.
I think part of the reason was just connections and him knowing this guy and that guy, some guy in radio, an A&R guy here or there, because before he came to the U.S., he had worked for Virgin for 5 years.
Okay.
And then he started this label called Enigma. And so what they were doing is signing bands like Motley Crue, and then they'd sell them off to major labels. Like Motley Crue had gone to Elektra 1 year before we met this guy.
Oh, wow.
And Alan. So that was the whole plan. But then his partners didn't want us. So he goes, he wouldn't be denied because they had signed Berlin just a little bit before, so his partners wanted to go more in that direction, not so much the rock. But he liked us enough to where he wanted to, so he just took us on his own and gave us a chance at a career. It's pretty sweet.
That's good. And you're continuing today, and it looks like you guys, you're having a great time right now. Everyone's enjoying each other's talents. You get the guys just in watching the videos and stuff like that too. I mean, some of the behind the scenes stuff. I've seen some of the things on YouTube. You guys look like your buddies, which is great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get along well. In the old days, arguments and stuff like that were usually stemming from hangovers, and now none of us even smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
So we're treating ourselves a little better these days, and it's just all about the enjoyment, the playing the shows, and so everything's going great.
That's awesome. And actually, that's a question. I'm going to kind of go a little out of order here, just since you brought that up. How are you managing to stay, healthy out there? Because now you're starting to tour a lot more again too, and with the new record out, which is phenomenal. What's it like on the road, and how are you managing to stay healthy out there?
There's usually some food available that's we can still eat salad and eat as good as we possibly can. It's mostly the lack of sleep that's difficult when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Like you've heard it said that, they pay us to travel, but we play for free. Mm-hmm. There's a good reason for that, man. The traveling's way harder than the gig.
Yeah.
Like I remember I heard Mike Tyson say, the easiest thing about being a boxer is the fight itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the getting up at 4 a.m, running 5 miles and all that, So it's, for us, getting to the gigs and the lack of sleep is the most difficult part of being in a band. But we do the best we can. You become the master of the power nap, so that helps a lot.
Yeah.
You got to be able to fall asleep at the drop of a dime.
I can have a 5-minute power nap and it feels like an hour. I can really just zone out. And it's pretty good. You got to just really enjoy it.
Just get a couple REMs and you have this newfound energy. It's crazy.
That's right. I'll wake up, I'll grab a coffee, and then I think I'm ready to take on the next challenge at hand.
There you go, man. I'm glad. You're a lot like me.
Yeah.
In that regard.
But you got to be careful, too, because you abuse that. And there's been some days, back in the office when I wasn't working from home, I'd have 5 or 6 coffees, and then you're great. And then all of a sudden in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're ready to pull out a pillow and have a little nap. Yeah.
Well, one thing when we've had a couple of really hard grinding weeks to where I'm just getting an hour here, an hour there, and then I'll get home and sleep one good night, just all the way. But you need to catch those hours up. You can't just get them all back in one go.
No.
I found that out the hard, kind of, by experience. But
yeah. I found too, you can skip a few meals. Not that I suggest it, but you can skip more meals than you can skip sleep, because when you're brain tired, it's not a good thing.
No, you need the fuel. You need to be focused when you're playing. Mm-hmm. We do everything we can possibly do to make the show the best it can be.
That's good.
That's the main thing. So
Love it.
It usually works out okay.
I'm going to jump back to the chat for a second and come back. We're going to talk about first guitars. It's one of the things I want to talk to you about as well, too. So Les Bellin saying, Mark Kendall rocks. Bruce is joining us saying, hey, Eric and everyone. Let me see here. Here's a good one. Okay, so this is really nice. When the fans set it up for me, I love it. It's almost like I'm paying these guys to set up these questions. Mystic Star says, Mark, do you still have your Shark guitar? And my question I had for you, so you can answer two questions. You can answer his. And what was the first guitar that you ever owned, and do you still own it?
Actually, I don't. My dad got me a kind of a Spanish acoustic called the K guitar, Kay.
Familiar.
And that's where I learned my way around the neck a little bit, and learned some chords from neighbors who've been playing a while and stuff like that. Took one lesson from the surf band guitar player, and then he was teaching me stuff that I didn't want to know about really, even though you're supposed to, but I was too impatient to do the Tom Dooley and these little jingles and all that. I wanted to play Gloria, Wipeout, Pipeline, all that kind of stuff that I was hearing.
And you could show your friends.
The Stones or whatever. So I was able to pick it up. The first song I learned was a Yardbirds song called For Your Love.
Oh, right.
I actually learned it from a 45 record, so I'm going, man, because it seemed like all those songs had E, A, D, or C in them. So it was funny. You could just kind of pick it up, but yeah, as far as, and then my second guitar was an electric K that I got for Christmas. And I actually went and played my fourth grade class with another guitar player. He had really good equipment. Like he had a Fender Mustang guitar. He had a Fender twin reverb amp. But his parents put duct tape on the knobs, like on the volume. Or not duct tape, but like tape. Like it might have been Scotch tape even. Mm-hmm. But to where this is as loud as you can go type thing. So I had a K amp, and I could be a little louder than him because my parents didn't, put the handcuffs on me. And so we played together, and we played the songs I mentioned. It was Pipeline, Gloria, Wipeout, and Secret Agent Man. Yeah, those were the first kind of four songs, apart from For Your Love. I didn't have that. We didn't have that together. It was just, without the vocal, it just wasn't as exciting as those other ones.
Yeah.
The other songs had like two guitar parts, and so.
It's cool.
Yeah, I don't have them actually. Let me get to the end of that.
Yeah.
The one guitar, I don't even know what happened to it. The acoustic and the electric. When I was about 14, I sold it to this guy for $5.
Oh, geez.
And it's terrible, know. And now he asked something about the Shark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you still have that.
Yeah, the Shark guitar, the original Shark guitar. Dick Clark, the American Bandstand fellow, called our offices and said, "I got to have that Shark guitar for my Hard Rock Cafe." And so we just said, "Okay." We donated, for the fans to see. They put them up on the wall and whatever. But recently, somebody messaged me and said it was on eBay.
No.
Yeah. So we called the corporate and to find out what's going on, because, I wouldn't want it back for anything other than placing it somewhere else for people to look at.
Right.
But for them to sell it, I felt that was that's not what I gave it up for.
No.
To sell. I gave it for people to look at. And I don't know what they sold it. They sold it for like $20,000, but they're saying it was a replica. But the reason I didn't believe that is they had the mounts on the back, the holes for the mount to mount it on the wall.
Rock. Yeah.
Who's going to take it to that extreme if you're doing a relic version of the original? There's no way they're going to have holes in the back to hang it on the wall. So they claimed it was in storage and all this stuff, but I just don't believe it.
It's one of those things where you probably can't do anything about it now, which is a shame, though.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's, because like I said, I would have just donated it. It didn't really play that good. It was more of a novelty.
Yeah.
Something for the fans to dig on, Great White, the Shark, he's playing one. Okay.
I get it, yeah.
But that guy that made that guitar he did stuff for movies. He built George Lynch's Skull and Crossbones guitar. So he was real good at creative. But it was a whole person being swallowed by the shark, except their leg was sticking out.
Right.
And that was the neck. And they literally had a pair of like Bermuda shorts, a Band-Aid on the knee.
Yeah.
The headstock was a tennis shoe. So it was pretty creative. It was fun.
It was definitely something that stood out in its day for sure, totally. I mean, everyone had, Eddie started the Stripe guitars, and we had all the different crazy versions of V's, and you say George Lynch's guitars. So there was a few guys that had something that stood out, but that's something you were definitely going to remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But what a sad story, though, too. Somebody to donate something like that, and then it ends up on an auction site. It's too bad. And that's why a lot of artists these days are hesitant. Some people say, oh, these guys are jerks. They won't give us anything to put in our museums or this or that or a charity. And because they've been robbed so many times by, don't personalize it, just, blah, blah, blah. Or personalize it even, and they'll just erase the personalization off and still sell it on an auction site. It's not fair.
Right.
Yeah. And it makes it hard for us fans because we want to get an autograph from our heroes.
Yeah, I just I've been to Hard Rocks and seen all that memorabilia, and I was happy to be a part of all that.
That's got to be awesome.
And when they sell it, I mean, it had been to Hawaii. A friend of mine saw it in Rio, so they move it around so everybody gets to look at all everything.
Nice.
And when I heard it was on eBay, I just like, oh my God. That's so weak.
It's really funny. You're talking about the George Lynch guitar and also talking about the Hard Rock. A very good friend of mine, Craig Rendles, he's working closely with George Lynch right now, making a limited number of the Bones guitars. And they actually took one out of the Hard Rock Cafe. And what was so funny about it, when they duplicated it, there was a piece of tape that was under the Floyd Rose, I guess just for, the shipping or whatever, right? So the bridge isn't, scratching or anything like that. And eventually the tape had come off, so there is a yellowing mark where it had aged. So when they're duplicating these guitars now, they've even got the yellowing where the tape was. It's so awesome.
I took a tour of Fender not long ago and saw these guys making these relics, and this guy actually said he knew me really. He's seen me years ago and this and that and the other, and knew a lot about our career or whatever. But he duplicated an Yngwie Strat.
Yeah.
And made every mark like perfect, like all this like cigarette burn. They use keys to kind of ding it up, and they match the dings. I mean, it's really crazy how good they are.
It's forensic almost.
Yeah, it's very, very, very.
You got to love that. Yeah, and some of the tricks they'll do for rusting, and with the wiring and most of the bridge, anything that's got chrome on it, it looks like it's totally vintage.
I learned something, Eric, in the Fender little tour I did, that most of the people that wind the pickups are all women.
I know.
Yeah, because they can sew and they're real good at the small areas of the winding. And there's actually a legend there. Her name was Adele, who did like Clapton's pickups, Keith Richards. The Stones took her to a gig. They actually picked her up in limo.
Yeah,
and she was so.
She's responsible for the sound, really. I mean,
friendly and she wound their pickups, man.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
It's pretty cool stuff.
If I wound my own pickup, it would be screaming like a bugger, man.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error with that. I had a guy do it for me before, but.
Speaking, I want to do this just because it's appropriate right now, too. I should give a shout-out to one of my new sponsors of the show, Mike's Music, Mike Palermo. He's up in Thorold, Ontario, and when it comes to relicking, he does some amazing work. And through his brand, you should check him out later on, too, Palermo Guitars. He's built guitars for Joe Perry, for Johnny Depp. He's built a really nice one for Nikki Sixx. Nikki Sixx doing a little bit of guitar playing now and doing some recording and stuff like that. Obviously, he's always probably played guitar a little bit. But the stuff he does, and he relics like some old Telecasters and Les Pauls and stuff like that. Custom service, very, very cool. Looks like something you would, they're authentic guitars, but just totally, totally relic. It's totally amazing. If people are into that, mikesmusiconline.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good stuff. Pierce Thomas says he has a good question, and a lot of us have a great opinion of this fellow. What do you think about, he's asking, what do you guys think? I'm sure he knows my opinion. What do you think of Jason Becker?
Jason Becker, great guitar player. I know he's making records. I know about his illness and all that. I just think, it just shows you that, I mean, he's got so much drive in him to still make music. He figured out a way, and he's writing all that stuff.
Yes.
I just think it's wonderful. It almost reminds me of the Def Leppard drummer, man.
Yeah.
He loses an arm and he figures
So
it
what?
out, because he loves music so much he'll do anything to produce, and yeah, God bless him.
That's awesome. I had Dan Alvarez as producer on just about a month back, and we had a lot of discussion, obviously, about Jason, and just the way he were at one time. He would physically be able to, either by mouse click or sometimes different things he had long before his dad invented the eye reading chart type thing. But
Right.
It's come such a long way, and he's going to have a new record probably within the next year, and it's going to have a lot of guests on it. Some of these guys we talked about, the Satrianis, the Steve Vais, these guys
Yeah.
are all going to be contributing. I think it's going to be
That's awesome,
a
man.
blessing. And it
That
is.
shows that everybody cares and they really just love him.
It does, and it take away his guitar playing, just the fact that and Rick Allen. It's Rick Allen, right? The drummer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes
Sure.
to show you people like that. I mean, we need to look at people like that for sources of inspiration. Their musical talent is just icing on the cake, but what they do for us, and I want to say maybe more so for kids growing up, but us as adults too. Just when you think you're having a bad day, you reflect on that, and it's like, okay, the world can be a good place if we all kind of have that mindset a little bit.
I'm such a grateful person today. For everything, and I wasn't so much like that when I was a younger man, but I've grown to be more appreciative of stuff like breathing.
Yes. Yeah, we're
So,
alive. Any day that you're alive is a good day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me see. Timothy Pierce says, hello, Eric Poison, and I am Mark Kendall. I'm happy to see you, man. Really love your playing. He's referring to you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Let me see here if I miss anything else here too. Neil Bradbury says, I used to have Mark's promo poster for Crate hanging on the bedroom wall when I was a kid. Yeah, remember how big Crate was? And that day you were probably a Crate endorser, obviously.
Yeah. We endorsed Crate. We did a few ads for them. I remember one we were like sailing on a sea, and Michael Lardy had this like telescope,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty nice little ad thing they did for that.
Yeah,
that was pretty sweet.
And it was funny too because Crate was, they were frowned upon at one time, and then guys like you come along and we're endorsing it. It goes to show you how endorsements really help a brand, because once you put your name on there, okay, well Mark's got that, I want to get that, I want to get the 212, or I want to get this whatever, and then fast forward many years down the road, Sammy Hagar is using them, and some people like that, and it does help for sure.
Yeah, I remember Japanese guys would come over and they'd take pictures of my gear.
Yeah.
And I go, do you want me to like hold the guitar or something? Like I'm thinking like, I'm so great, and you're probably going to want a lot of pictures of me. No, only your gear.
Yeah.
No pictures of you. Go away. We don't need you.
Now, is that so they could reproduce it?
And then I see my Shark guitar like in Young Guitar, in Burn magazine for sale for like a million yen or whatever the money. I wasn't really familiar with the difference in the money, but I know it's tons of yen is equal to whatever.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was pretty funny, and stuff like that didn't really bother me so much. I just figure, it's promotion for the band. If they want to, I guess they're going to make profit of it.
Yeah,
it'd be cool if they throw me something, but it's all good.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be hard to swallow the first few times around. Like, oh, here, you want me to picture with me? No, please, you're in the way. Yeah, move away from your cabinet. I need a picture of the cabinet. You're in the way.
Yeah. No, we don't need you.
That's hilarious. Over in the chat, we've got. Let me see here. Bane Rocks actually is my boy. He's a aspiring guitar player. He was anxious to say hi to you. Says hola peeps. U.S. American made guitars is saying hola. Let me see here. Eddie Rocks 5150 says, thanks, Eric. Mark gave lessons, and Kendall used to come by the store in Garden Grove.
Yeah. I've made an instruction video before. I used to, I was wide open to show show people kind of their way around the neck and whatnot. And, you know, I don't have a lot of time to have a bunch of students, but I'm always willing to give a little time when I can.
Nice. And I think it helps us a little bit too, because I used to teach as a kid, but don't you find it helps you as a player every once in a while when you're showing somebody some things?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I also like it when I see people on the internet like playing our old catalog stuff, you know. Their interpretation of the way they're playing it, they're getting it real close, but they do it like the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, I would never go here and then way up here, you know.
Yeah.
Like I do everything like where it's more simplified. Like they're getting it done, but they're doing it in a more difficult way.
Unorthodox.
So I like to show people how to do things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just makes it easier. You know, but you still got to practice a lot, you know.
Yep. Yeah, that's a perfect thing, and we're lucky too with YouTube and things like that too. But the thing is, I've told a lot of people, even my son, when he's learning things, you know, if you're jumping from the first fret to the 12th or something like that, chances are, you know, there's something the guitar player's done in between. Some guys will do that; they'll do some crazy, you know,
Right.
you know, theatrics, Steve Vais and things like that, and Ingves and people like that. But for the most part, you know, it is probably simpler somewhere, you know, within a pattern. And you just got to find
like Rock Me, this guy's going into the B section, and it's kind of done with a chord. It's like a minor chord I'm playing, but he's doing like a 2-finger thing, and it's not even near where I did it. You know, it still sounds similar, but I'm just saying, you know, things like that.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Well,
But it's you know, of course I'm thrilled they're trying.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's an honor to go on YouTube, see all these guys doing your covers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And every once in a while, too, I'm sure there might be the odd one you might forget yourself, so you go find the best one of whoever's ever doing it and learn it.
I just go on YouTube and see a guy playing. Oh, yeah, I remember now.
That's right. That's right. You go back to the Ace Frehley stories. We'll get Tommy Thayer to teach Ace Frehley how to do the guitar parts, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That was long before the days of YouTube, so you know what I mean? But that's hilarious. So let's talk about the new record. I mean, that's something I really want to talk about. Full Circle. You were in Nashville recording that one, and tell us a little bit about. I mean, I've seen some of the behind the scenes things too, which was awesome. Tell us a little bit about who produced that, at the studio you're at, and how much fun you had in Nashville recording. Maybe what vibe that had on the recording.
Well, yeah, the way it came about was we had wanted to do a record the year before. We were getting together, writing songs and stuff, Michael Arty and I. And, you know, because we really wanted to make new music. That's what kind of gives us energy when we allow ourselves to be creative and make new music. And the shows were kind of getting in the way of it. And we went on a Monsters of Rock cruise, and I was looking, they give you these schedules on, like, when you're going to play, who else is playing, what's going on. And I had seen that Michael Wagner was doing a question and answer thing, and I wanted to go immediately because I hadn't seen him for so many years, and I just wanted to say hi. And I also wanted to ask him questions that I knew the answers to, just so the audience could hear some of these stories.
Yep.
You know, he used to do a lot of creative things and always got sound effects by creating it himself.
Nice.
You know, never using effects records or anything like that. And there was a lot of good ones, you know. To do with Accept, stories he had told us, stuff he had done on our record, and because he did our first EP and first album. So that turned, I didn't talk to him after that, but he came to our show and said hi, and then after the show he disappeared, but then I saw him later and got to speak with him for a while, and after we said goodbye, when I was walking away, he goes, "Hey man, why don't we do something again?" And it was like, it wasn't even a thought of mine.
Yeah.
But I immediately was excited. I go, really? That would be amazing. I'd be totally into it. So we just kept in touch after that. Before we knew it, we rented a house out in Nashville, 15 minutes from his studio, and we made a record with Michael Wagner. And I knew it was going to be special, so we hired a film company called Rock Slide Entertainment to film the whole 2 months. I mean, you know, pro filming, you know, with HD cameras, like a lot of gear, and they just always had cameras rolling. And so it was just a great experience. He's such a high-end pro. He did most of the bands from our era, the Ozzies, the Metallicas, Alice Cooper. I mean, when you walk in this guy's studio, there's so many platinum records on the wall. It's just blinding. So he's obviously, I've followed his career a little bit. I check out, I don't download. I support the bands.
Nice.
I read the liner notes.
Nice.
I read who produced it, and I'm always seeing his name all the time. So anyways, we just got in there. We weren't really that prepared. We had most of the arrangements and the music, but not quite. And we had hardly any lyrics,
Yep.
So he was less than thrilled with that. But we just said, man, just compromise. We'll get it done. And so he worked with us. And then when we finished, he records one song at a time.
Okay.
So
start to finish.
We were able to work on lyrics the night before. We had scattered lyrics. We had some ideas. Some choruses were done. Some, a few things. But when we knew what we were going to work on the next day, we all got together, and it was a real group effort with the lyrics. And so, we all jammed together when we were recording the tracks, but we only keep the drums, and then our guitars would be on the tape, so the bass player would just play to that, and we finished the bass. So now the bass and drums are done. Next morning we'd come in. We know what song in advance. Like I said, we could hand Michael Wagner the lyric sheet.
Oh, perfect.
He's like, yay,
Perfect.
Lyrics. Oh, my God. And we do the guitars in the day and the overdubs, maybe some percussion. If they had keyboards, maybe keyboards. And then the singer would come in the late afternoon, sing it down a few times, and then he would comp the vocals. And then the next day we would have a rough mix of that song and do the same thing again. So we were there about 2 months.
Nice.
And, we're really excited about the outcome, the feedback. The songs turned out real good. He's such a, taskmaster, if you will, that, he really does a lot of left and right, so it's like ear candy.
Yes.
So he's just, a high-end pro, and he makes you feel this. Part of the reason I say that is not only because he's such a great engineer, producer, comes with great ideas, but the way you feel when you're around him, he makes you feel at ease.
Nice. Comfort.
It makes it easy to play in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You're not intimidated because of his personality lends itself to you feeling comfortable. And I just loved it. That way I could play my heart out and not, feel like, is this going to be good enough? Or,
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd think after all these years I wouldn't, be intimidated or whatever. But, I'd like to feel comfortable. It was a different environment, which I loved because it made our, we were vibrating at a higher frequency because of that. It's new. We're excited, man.
Of course.
Look at the kitchen, man. That's badass. And, look at all this gear this guy's got, man. What is this, a spaceship? I mean, I've never seen this much outboard gear in my life. And so just a great experience. The feedback's been amazing, and we're thrilled with everything.
Well, I love the record. Your people were kind enough to send it to me, so I've been listening to that constantly in the car, here, and everywhere. Obviously, I like to get in the zone 100% before a show, before I have my guests on, but I love it. But I'm also interested, you talked about this documentary. When will we be able to see this, and how do we see this?
Well, what we did was included it with the record.
Okay.
So if you buy the physical product off our website, officialgreatwhite.com,
you get that as well. Okay, great.
You get the DVD of us making the record, and you can really watch the songs grow. I mean, you can tell we don't know what we're doing. I mean,
awesome.
We're writing lyrics in the studio. We're like, I think there was only one spat as far as, disagreement. It wasn't that bad. It was, we don't argue ever unless it's over a song. You know, I'm very passionate about, you know, if I know I'm right sometimes, I'll kind of fight, you know, until I get the answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But it's not to be mean. It's just I care so much about the music, and we're all that way.
Yeah, it's a crime to let one of those pieces go if it's that important to you that it's, you know, a disagreement arises. Sometimes people pick a fight and it's really for no merit. But if you're that set on it, it'll probably come through as a better end result on the record.
It's usually something I've worked on for a long time, and I worked on other parts too that didn't work, and we got this one part, and you know, you better love it, man, because I know it's good. Believe me, but I'll be the same way. I might be trying to get my idea in when someone else is, but it's always for the song.
Yeah.
It has nothing. Our egos are so far in the past. It's not even funny.
Yep.
Our egos are checked at the door. You know, we are so about the song.
Yeah.
It's just to make this song the best it can be, and that's the only reason there would be any kind of a, you know, argument per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just fun, you know, because when you go to somewhere different to record, it just, you know, it eliminates the risk of going through the motions, you know, or knowing everything that's going to happen before it does.
Yeah.
You know, like recording one song at a time. I've never done that. But it makes total sense to me because, you know, all your focus is on this guitar sound for this song, and, you know, you're not going, well, I'm going to do 5 rhythm tracks today on 5 different songs. And one thing I noticed is when that song's finished, all vocals, backgrounds, percussion, everything you're going to put on that song's done, and you put it aside and go to the next song, you automatically want to work on a different guitar sound for it.
Exactly.
You know, what would be the guitar? But if you're doing 5 rhythm tracks, I in the past, I wouldn't even change my amp or anything. I just, okay, yeah, you know, play
Let's
this
go.
part and that part. You know, let's just go, man.
Yep.
I'm on a roll. I did 3 in one day, and
Woohoo.
you know, but doing it this way, I'm sure it's from all the years that he's been doing this. He found something that's really makes sense, and it really does. I got a different guitar sound for every song, you know.
Love it. And it being in Nashville certainly doesn't hurt either as a nice inspirational geographical location.
Very much. We were out in the middle. We were on a lake. I mean, it was just beauty everywhere. You know, ducks and deer, and you know, so there wasn't a distraction to be had. So it was all music, and our focus was in a good spot, and everybody was happy. You know, we were just getting along great, and living in one place. You know,
I love it.
I mean, you know, so it was a great experience, and to work with him again was just so much fun, you know, just a lot of fun. Now,
did the title of the album have anything to do with that, working with him again, or yeah, there you go.
It actually did, because we never name a record until it's finished, and we were going over like the song titles. We were going, you know, getting out of a cheap way, you know, let's name it after a song. Yeah. But it just so didn't make any sense. But, you know, it doesn't have to totally make sense, but we just felt it was just not going to work. And then Michael Lardy came up and goes, well, what about Full Circle? And I'm going, oh my God, I liked it right away. I'm going, yeah, he did our first EP, he did our first album, and now we've been around the world like 8 times, and now we're back with our first producer again. It's so sensible.
You couldn't have picked a better title.
Yeah, you know,
it's perfect.
And so then I got hold of this artist that did a record, the artwork for a record we did years ago called Can't Get There From Here, like in '99, and he does all the stuff for like Jaws movie recreation, so he's a real ocean shark dude. And I go, okay, Paul, here it is. His name Paul McVie. I go, we just did an album with Wagner. the title's Full Circle. Do something in the ocean and make it look like that. That's all I gave him because he's real creative. He's great. You know? So he's got a shark going in circles, all these instruments flying everywhere, and then a guy on the back in this like little boat, you know, like not knowing what he's going to get into when he gets up the road.
That's right.
So it turned out great.
I love it. I love it for sure. Well, that's perfect. I figured that's where the title come from, and I did not know, so I was just curious. So that's awesome. We're about 12 minutes away from the end of the show here, but a couple other questions here. This is a good one here too. Cold Gin 5150. So we got a Kiss Van Halen fan here. He says, and this is really cool too. Jakey Lee. I'm going to be having Jakey Lee on the show in the fall. He says, Jakey Lee had some nice comments about your playing in the past. What's your take on Jake's playing and influence? And he says, thanks, Mark.
Me and Jake were buddies. You know, I think he's an absolutely wonderful guitar player, and he has the best of both worlds. He's very melodic, but he has a lot of chops. And you know, the stuff he did in Ozzy was brilliant. He's got a great right hand. Maybe not quite as articulate as somebody like Eddie Van Halen, but I like his attack. I like the way he plays rhythm. He's a very sweet guy. He's pretty humble. You know, he doesn't walk around telling everybody how great he is.
Right.
And he probably hasn't just, you know, quite got the accolades he might deserve. But I really like him. So yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go. There's your answer on that one. We got the Law jumping in. Says, is what up to Cutter? Hasn't seen him in a while. Mark Kendall. This is from JLC. Says, Mark Kendall, hands down, one of my top 3 players that inspired me to pick up a guitar. So thank you to Mark on that one.
Thanks a lot, man. Yeah. That means a lot. And, you know, I'm glad you're digging the music and stuff.
Exactly. Jeremy Carter's asking who your influences were, but Jeremy, if you go back, you might have tuned in a bit late. Mark addressed that probably about 1/3 of the way into the program, but check that back after. Let me see here. U.S. American Make Guitarist gave us a thumbs up. Appreciate that. And Rando says, David Rand here says, I agree with Jared Frost comments about his melodic playing that was key to every song. I agree totally. And Poison Ivy says, loving these stories. It's great hearing the personal stories. It's very, very nice. And Colchin just thanked you as well for your answer on that question there. So fantastic. So what's next? What's the rest of the summer tour looking like for you guys?
Well, we're going over to Europe. We're actually playing a festival with one of your bands out there that we really didn't run into much in the heyday, but Loverboy.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah, they're on the same bill as us the same day. So we've actually played with them twice in the past 5 or 6 years. And finally got to meet the singer and stuff. They came a little bit before us, I think maybe around 1980.
I think you're right on that.
So I remember watching them on the MTV just like a fan, just digging their stuff, and so that's going to be fun. Also, if I can, I know we're running short on time, but I wanted to mention that this guy, his name's Rick Harrison. He works for RH Custom Guitars, and he had built me a guitar. I think it's almost 2 years now ago. We had 4 meetings. We went over the wood, everything known to man that you can go over with someone who builds guitars to make it right. I just wanted it right, and he made it perfect. It's a very musical, you know. And the other, you know, you can go to rhcustom.com and just check his stuff out, rhcustomguitars.com. He makes one-of-a-kind guitars, and they are so sweet. And also I wanted to mention TV Jones pickups. I use Powertron pickups.
Okay.
They're not super high output because I like to get the most note value I can, because I can always get more distortion. There's a million pedals out there. I'll give you all the Tony Iommis you want. But it's hard to make the notes louder. So I use a little bit lower output pickups than the norm, because I don't like distortion coming from my pickup. Right, exactly. I can get it everywhere else. So I like to hear the notes when I'm doing chords when I'm a little more wide open. I like the strings to speak through all that distortion and not make the distortion louder than the notes.
Right.
But a lot of times, if you're using the high gain pickups, at least for me, unless you have a certain rig, maybe you can get around it, but it just seems easier for me to just do it with the pickups. When you get rid of that distortion, then you don't have your sound. You can't get enough. You're not getting enough throat with the distortion. So I found that it's better to get it with the pickup, and then when you add the distortion, you still have that note, the note speaking well.
Okay.
So any up and comers, at least give it a try. Billy Gibbons is using them. I know that Brian Setzer uses not that brand. He even goes lower output because he's like, he's that kind of player, country picking, twanger that has great tone though.
Yeah.
Brian Setzer can play, believe me. So just want to mention those two companies that treat me really good. Labella Strings, 32 years, never gone anywhere.
Nice.
During our ups, downs, whatever, I still get strings in the mail. So I like to mention these people that have been, like our fans, loyal to me.
That's great.
And a lot of times you'll be with a company, you're selling millions of records, and then you fall off a little bit, and
they take off.
Where'd they go? And they're not answering the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So the ones that stick with me, I definitely want to give them a heartfelt thank you.
I agree, and you should. That's awesome. I just want to ask you quickly, was RH Customs, is that what it was for the guitar?
RH Custom Guitars, his name's Rick Harrison.
Okay.
He builds, this guy, I've always settled, no matter what guitar I've ever owned, it's always, I love everything except this one thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's this one
if
thing
it only
could be
had
better.
This.
So I finally have a guitar that it literally does everything I need it to. It sounds great. It's very musical, and it's just the wood. Spalted maple on the body, alder on the back, rosewood. I have for the headstock, it's zebra wood. It's really pretty wood. It just resonates perfect. You can tell when you play it without an amp, it's going to sound good.
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about too, because you're a good guitar player.
Thank you.
You can tell when you pick up a guitar if it's going to, speak.
Yeah.
After playing a long time, you can.
If it doesn't sound good on the couch, it's probably not going to sound too good plugged in.
That's right, Eric.
The reason why I asked is I think that's the picture I used for the promotional graphic for today, and it's also the same guitar that you played in the video, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of latch onto a guitar. I know people have 8 guitars on the road, but I bring a couple. I do a couple changes, but that thing just does everything I need it to, and I change the sounds elsewhere. I didn't get to mention the Kemper. I know we're getting real low on time.
That's okay. Someone just asked about an amp, so let's talk about that. No, that's okay. We can go longer if you need to. No problem.
I had not. Michael Wagner suggested I try this Kemper, which I'm like you. I plug into amps. The speakers are blazing, and I feel it, and and all that. So, but I said I'm not opposed to trying it. So I try it, and it has a feature that first of all, the guy that invented it, this isn't amp farm. This is literally profiling the real amp, getting all the sound waves perfect, and all the cabinets, the sound waves are recreated. So that sounds cheesy, right? But you can push the tubes. You can literally get that real AC/DC kind of distortion where it's coming because you crank the amp and the tubes kind of saturated a little bit. So you get that super true distortion and tube sound. And I played along, and I'm going, I can't believe there's not a cabinet out there just blazing right now. And part of the trouble I've ran into over the years with 4x12 cabinets is it takes forever to make it sound like you hear it.
Yes.
Like when you're standing 5 feet away, man, this is the best tone in the world. But the speaker, I mean, the microphone is on the speaker. You're not down there with your ear up down in that region. So that's you have to tinker around with mics, get them all just to get it close, because it never goes on the tape. Like one album, I had like 14 combo amps because it was it sounded the way it did to me coming out of the cabinet better than with all the EQ that's created coming out of a 4x12 cabinet.
True.
There's a lot of EQ floating around for whatever reason. It's just more of a condensed thing with, like I recorded one album, a solo thing I did from a Fender basement head that I have that distorts from turning it up, but it doesn't get too loud.
Yep.
And it's the sweetest. It reminds me of like Tres Hombres, that kind of real tube, stinky Eddie Van Halen kind of tube thing.
Nasty.
And that's the only amp that sounds like that, so I never bring it anywhere. But I was able to get tones like that, So, man, for recording, I guess live, the only thing live, I'm not sure yet. I'm afraid to try it. I need cabinets going on stage. I'm not in Steely Dan, if you know what I mean. I'm not, everything's direct, and I'm wearing headphones, and I don't want to move around too much. It's just too safe. I need bad sounding wedges.
Yep.
My amp blazing behind me. So I think you can have cabinets running, but I just have to figure I need some time if I'm going to do it live.
Yeah, just to find out what's comfortable and what works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was shocked how good it sounded. I guess he had the inventor in his studio for a week so they can get the maximum out of this thing with the direct. That's the other thing. You can record direct, and then you're listening back to the track and you're going, God, there's just not enough distortion. It's just not happening. I got to play this again. No, you don't, because it recorded your performance. So you can run it back through and add a different amp,
reamp it,
put more distortion. Yeah, you just reamp it.
Nice.
He actually has a service where bands are they're recording in their bedrooms, and maybe their guitar sound ain't so good because they can't turn it up loud enough. But they record direct, and then he reamps it through all his stuff, and sends it back. And man, the bass is ballsy, the guitar sounds the greatest ever. So it's all their performances, but he just reamps it for them.
Well, that's perfect.
It's pretty cool.
Here's a good comment. Probably will be our last comment for the evening. JLC says, "Play 5150s, Mark." And here's a funny story that Mark and I have shared this story off the air, but I'll share it with the fans as well too. So somewhere in the house here, Poison Ivy, my better half here, we still have the rider when you guys come through our town. And it was basically the backline requirement. The music store I was working at was providing backline for your gig. And of course, Marshall, all this other kind of stuff. And we need an 810 Ampeg. We need this. No problem. So we'll bring in the equivalent, whatever we have. And I was the PV 5150 player, and I was opening for you guys. And so I brought in the 5150 212 combo, a 412 and a head, whatever. And Kevin Dugan, who a lot of the Van Halen fans know, Mikey's bass tech, and Mike is one of your best friends. Kevin Dugan met a few times, obviously, since the Van Halen show, so got to know him as Doogie and kind of, on a name basis. And he saw me bringing in the 5150s. First of all, I said, Doogie, I waved to him. And then he saw the 5150s. He says, oh, no, please tell me this is not for Great White. And I said, no, look at all the Marshalls over here. You're safe. We brought your backline. This is mine. And then we were obviously laughing over that. It was a good way to break the ice. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I do remember that gig because you mentioned Doogie, because he only worked for us for a couple months, but he's a super guy. Yeah. I actually played a wedding with Michael Anthony one time. That was pretty amazing.
Okay, that's cool.
He had this flame acoustic bass and stuff. His voice is so insanely good. You can't imagine how good he sings. We were doing harmonies, and he has so much power in the high range. I don't think there's too many people that sing background vocals that have the kind of range he has. They could sing like a woman, almost like with a lot of power in the highs.
Old school
well,
Geddy Lee.
You know, from Van Halen.
Yeah.
There's stacks of harmonies that.
Oh yeah.
That's him, man. That's all him. I mean, he really sings like unbelievable.
Well, it's been said many times on the show, and not only just on this show, it's been said anywhere who is a Van Halen fan, you know, Michael's voice is one of the instruments, just like Eddie's guitar and Alex's snare and things like that. You know, it's very, very synonymous with Van Halen. You know, it's an instrument.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. That was a great addition to the band because of that. Because I know I went to this Van Halen book thing. A guy wrote a book on their history. And so they have this band called Van Halen, which is,
good friends of mine.
They cover them and they look kind of like them and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Derek
and they
Fuller's
had the original
player.
bass player was there and jammed.
Mark Stone.
Mark Stone.
Yep.
And you know, got to meet him and stuff. And there was a lot of people from the past, Rudy Laren, a lot of people from the Van Halen.
Nice.
The past, but. The guy really do you know the guy that wrote the book? I can't think of his name.
Greg Renoff. Yeah, he was on the show here a couple times.
Great, super guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you had him on.
Yep.
He really did his homework. His facts and you know, talked to old roadies and you know, really delved into their history and did a great job. Did a real good job. It's
one of the best documentaries on any band out there. He's on kind of like an honorary member of the band, I would say. He's so thorough.
If you see the Van Halen, you might want to tell your listeners, which I'm sure you probably have, but the documentary on Van Halen, the early years, that's pretty sweet.
It is, yes.
It really took the history of each guy, where they came from and everything. So people interested in really going back, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, this documentary we have is just, like I said, it comes, if you're going to download it, it's on our Full Circle, our new album. It's on all the download sites, the iTunes and, you know, all those platforms. You can get the music only. But if you want the documentary too, which I just, you know, seriously, I thought it'd be fun for the fans. Yeah. And I had seen a Deep Purple one, but it was done 25 years after they recorded Machine Head.
Yeah, this is during.
But I saw how cool it was to see a guy push up one fader of a Blackmore part. I'm just going, oh my God. He goes, listen to that. It sounds like a machine the way he's playing there. And you know, and the story about recording in this little hotel, this big ass hotel, but this in the little corridor, very cramped, you know, them doing this magic in that spot. You know, basically playing live, and I just thought, how fun would it be for the fans to actually see how we make music? You know, because I mean, we're writing this stuff right on camera. You know. No,
you did the right thing by doing it for sure. The fans that like you, that have been liking you all the years, will love that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of band documentaries. I love it.
So am I.
Yeah,
so am I.
That's great. Yeah. So you did it for the fans.
That's how I got the idea, because I'm a fan. That's why I got the idea.
Awesome.
I saw how I felt.
Yep.
You know, so
Goosebumps.
People that like us, why wouldn't they like it, you know?
That's right. So go support that. I have links actually to all your entities down below in the description as well too. So people subscribe on YouTube. There's all the social media links as well too. So check that record out. And I'll have to purchase that too, because I've got the record I got both the live one and your recent one it was sent to me from your team there. So I'll go out and purchase that and get the documentary and watch that for sure. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward. What is it? Maybe like about an hour long, or how long is it roughly?
I think it's about 45 minutes.
Okay. Nice.
45 minutes, but you know, they interview Wagner. You know, you can see us. We're writing. We can see us recording. You know, just in the house that we rented, we're working stuff out. I mean, we're desperate. You know.
Yeah. I love it.
We got to finish the songs. We're here. You know what I mean? So the pressure was on, but you know. For under all the pressure we had, we're really happy with the you know, the final result and everything.
Well, I'm really happy for you as well too, and I think this whole thing with being Full Circle, I think, is a good feeling for you guys. It's really, really nice. I mean, there's still many years in your future to do what you want to do, but it's nice to live in the moment for a few minutes right now and just kind of reflect where you've come from, where you are now. Be thankful, obviously, and here's to the future, man. Healthy and rock and roll, man. Thank
you, Eric. You do a great show. I actually, I'm really happy to do this show because you talk about all the stuff. I think you do a great show for the fans.
Thank you.
Guitar fans, people who play. It's great that you're bringing on artists on here and being able to share our stories and everything. I think it's really good what you're doing. So thanks for that.
Oh, no problem. The thanks are all mine. I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it was a bucket list for me as well too because I got to meet you before and got to play on the stage with you, and so that was nice to just see you in person again, which is great. Love the music, love what you're doing, and you're a big inspiration to a lot of us for many, many reasons, not just guitar playing. So I just want to say that.
Thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate that, buddy.
Awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to the little man in a moment. He's going to tell us what his name is, what he's playing it. And Mark, I'll say goodbye to you off the air. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And I'm back again actually this Friday. I've got Pixie Licks on the show on Friday night. So come and check out some really good guitar playing and some YouTube goodness. It's going to be a lot of fun, 9 p.m. this coming Friday. But I'm going to say goodbye to Mark off the air. Everyone go check out that new record and check out the documentary as well. Poison Ivy says, fans always want to know more. Docs totally rock.
Thanks to all the fans out there too. Appreciate it, man.
We love them. We love them for sure.
We do love them.
Jeff Humphrey says, dang, the show is awesome. I love this. Getting the skinny straight from one of our heroes. There we go. That's a perfect way to end the night for sure. Timothy Pierce said, thank you, Rick. Poison Ivy and Mark Kendall was truly a treat. See you later. That's great. Okay, I'm going to turn to the little man. He's going to let us know what he's playing, and I'm going to say goodbye to you in about 2 seconds off the air. Okay, Mark?
Okay, man.
Thanks so much, everyone. You rock. Talk to you real soon. Cheers.